Okay, sir.
So, good morning, everybody. Today, that is Friday, 28th of May, 2021, and this is the class for Master in Business Administration second semester students for the subject Human Resource Management. And the topic for today is methods of training, right? This is the last topic in your training, and after this topic, we will be starting with the next unit, right? So let's start with it. Now, coming down to the methods of training, there are a wide number of training methods and programs which are being organized and implemented by different organizations across the globe, right? Different training methods and programs are suitable according to different categories of personnels and organizations, maybe according to managerial, non-managerial, technical, administrative, skilled, unskilled, senior, junior, and so on, right? Different training programs are designed for different group of people, as we have seen in this point, right? Different organization have to make the choice of techniques and methods that it will be using in its training programs in accordance to their suitability with the training needs of that organization, right? Now, there are various methods of training which can be classified into two broad categories: on the job methods, right? On the job training, and vestibule training, and third is your off the job training, right? The all the training methods can be classified under these three categories. And what are these three categories? The first category is on the job training, the second category is vestibule training, the third category is off the job training, right? What are these methods? We will find it out, right? The first is your off the on the job training. First method is your on the job training, right? Let's understand what is it, right? On the job training, if we talk about, this is a method which is one of the most effective method of training the operative personnel. Those people who are working at the operative level, on the job training is the most important method for training them on the job, because they will be doing their job, along with that they will be getting trained also, right? Under the on the job training method, the worker is trained on the job, that is, he is working on his job at his workplace, and he is getting trained. He is getting trained by the way of doing his job itself, right? It enables him to get training under the same working environment, same tools, equipments, materials, etc., right? He is doing his normal job and he is attaining training. He is handling his normal tools, equipments, and machineries, and he is getting learning out of it. He is getting training out of it, that how to do the job well. Obviously, he is under the supervision of a supervisor who is being asked to train him on the job, and he is correcting his mistake now or then, as and when it is required, right? The responsibility of the trainer is given to his immediate supervisor, who knows exactly what the trainer has should be learn, or this responsibility may have been given to outside instructor, right? Both of these things are possible. You will be trained on the job either by your own supervisor or your own immediate supervisor, or an external expert is hired for this particular purpose of providing you with on the job training, right? Now, effective on the job training depends upon qualified trainers, right? If the trainers are not qualified, then it will be a useless exercise. It is something like that a trained employee and an untrained employee will be at par, because if you receive training with a qualified trainer, he will be able to tell you or train you about all the nitty-gritties involved in your job and how to handle them. But if you are trained by a person who is not very well aware about the job or about the methods of doing that particular job, then what he will teach you, right? What learning you will be gaining out of it? So the learning will almost be zero, and obviously there will be no advantage for you in as far as that training is concerned. So the trainer should be a qualified one who should be able to guide you, who should be able to give you the required input so that you may be able to contribute your level best to your job, right? Now moving further, this on the job training has the main advantage of strongly motivating the training to learn, run, right? It allows the training to learn in the actual environment using the actual tools and equipment for the purpose of training, right? On the job training methods are cheaper, they consume less amount of time, and you need not to spend additional money in training your employee, right? Line supervisors plays an important role in training their subordinates because they are directly into the process, so they can play an important role in training their subordinates, right? It increases the effectiveness of training because they are getting trained by directly by the line supervisors who are involved in the direct process in that organization, right? Now on the job training also has certain limitations. What are those limitations and drawbacks? Earlier they were advantages or merits, now it is the limitation or drawback. The first drawback or limitation is that it take longer time for their employer to learn the required skills, right? It is a time consuming process. Employees take a longer period of time to learn their work because they are working on the job, right? They are doing their job, along with that they are learning, so the learning here is slow and time consuming. The second disadvantage is that expert guidance may not be available to the employees, right? The weaknesses of the supervisor or workers from whom the new employee learns will be passed on to the worker, right? इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? It means that you are when you in case when you will be trained by your supervisor, what will be happening? You will be trained by your supervisor. Ultimately you will be receiving you will be receiving the knowledge from that particular supervisor, and his limitations will pass on to you because in his area of limitations he will not be able to guide you, so you will also be suffering to his weaknesses, right? Because he will be passing on his weaknesses also to you, because questions you will raise in those regard particularly will not be answered by him, right? So in such a case these weaknesses will remain with you. So here, if a qualified trainer is there or an external person is there, he can train you well, right? But in such case, when supervisor is having not having knowledge in certain regards of that job, he will not be able to guide you, and thus he will be passing his incompetency in those areas to you also as a trainee. So this is another limitation of on the job training, right? Now, the third drawback, there is disturbance in the production schedules. Supervisor is more interested in getting work than teaching skills, right? As there are production schedules and production is time oriented, there are targets, and on the basis of those targets you need to do the production. So the supervisor is not very much interested in training, rather he is very much interested in getting his production schedules achieved, because if he will not be getting his production schedule achieved, then what will be happening? Then your production will suffer, and ultimately will supervisor will be asked for that what why you are not abiding to the production norms, right? So supervisor, the attention of the supervisor is more on the production rather than training, right? So these are certain limitations or drawbacks of on the job training, right? Now there are three basic forms of on the job training. On the job training can take these three forms, right? Let us see them one by one. The first is your coaching, right? In coaching is superior, sup, superiors teaches their subordinate about the job in case of coaching, right? Here the emphasis is on learning by doing. The subordinates are learning by doing because it's on the job training. Next is the understudy. Next form of on the job training is understudy, right? Now what is understudy? Here the superior gives training to the subordinates who are understudy under him, right? Subordinates who are chosen for understudy will be imparted knowledge by the superiors, right? The purpose of understudy is to prepare someone to fill the vacancy that arises because of death, retirement, promotion, or transfer of the superior. In case if the superior is getting promoted, he is getting transfer, he is getting retirement, or he will be no more, then the understudy, the person who the subordinate who is his immediate subordinate and attached to him as an understudy will be able to take his position because he is directly under his supervision, that subordinate, and he has been through all the processes to which the superior had been, right? Now third form of on the job training is position rotation, right? What is position rotation? In position rotation, what is happening? It is done to broaden the background of the trainee at various positions. The trainee is being rotated on various positions within the same department or within the organization for a limited period of time so that he may be able to gain knowledge about all the positions that he is being placed at, right? The trainee is periodically rotated from different jobs in order to acquire general background of different jobs and becomes a versatile worker, right? Now coming down to the next one, the next form of training is vestibule training. Now first method of training was on the job training. On the job training has three methods. One is the coaching, next one is the understudy, and the third one is the position rotation. The second form of training is vestibule training. Now what is vestibule training? Let us understand that, right? Now if we talk about vestibule trainings, then in a vestibule training, employees are taken through a crash course or short course which under the simulative conditions which are alike to the actual working conditions, right? This is not the actual working condition, but these conditions are created just like as the working conditions, right? It got its name from the reminiscence of schools, right? Vestibule training is a general type of training, right? Like on the job training, you are getting trained on the job, right? But in vestibule training, same job like conditions are being created and you will be trained in job like condition. It is not the actual job but job like conditions. It is an attempt to create working conditions similar to the actual working conditions, right? Now vestibule training is suitable where employees are not where the organization do not want to place burden on their trainees to be a part of the production process, or where organization do not want to place the burden of training on their supervisors or line officers. In such a situation, vestibule training is very much useful, right? The staff which is there in the vestibule training schools, they are specialists in training the candidates. They are specialized trainers and their exclusive job is training the candidate. Vestibule is just like a training school which is there in your organization, and the only function of vestibule training is to provide coaching or is to provide training to the employees in same conditions as that of job, right? The trainees here avoid confusion and pressure of the work situations, and thus they are able to concentrate on training. Here on trainees there is no pressure of work, and thus they are able to contribute to their fullest, right? The activities of the subordinates do not interfere in the regular processes of production, because they are into the training schools, they are getting training in their training schools, so they are not, their activities are not intervening in the production process, right? Trainees gets an opportunity to become trainees get an opportunity to get acquainted with the work routine of the organization and recover from their initial nervousness in case of their job, right? Now the merits of vestibule training, let us see the merits or the advantages of the vestibule training, right? Yes. So the merits of vestibule training, let us understand the merits of vestibule training. What are the advantages or what are the benefits of vestibule training? First merit of vestibule training is that it gives more emphasis on imparting skills than production. Vestibule training is training oriented and it is not production oriented. Its more emphasis is on learning and not on production by the trainees, right? The second advantage, trainees get an opportunity to get accustomed to work routines and recover from their initial nervousness before going on the actual job. It plays an important role in making the trainees acquainted with the working environment and removing their initial nervousness that they are having in case of their job. The third advantage is it avoids inconvenience of on-the-job training methods, right? There those inconveniences which are there in the on the job methods, the inconveniences, the drawbacks that are there in the on the job methods, vestibule training is trying to avoid all the drawbacks of the on the job methods, so that trainees may be imparted with the trained effectively and they may be able to learn the whole process within a short period of time, right? The it do not interfere with the regular production because the training is being imparted at the different place in the organization, right? They as trainees are not the part of the production process, so production is not getting hampered. Moreover, there is no pressure on the line officers or the supervisors to train the employees, so therefore the production has almost no effect on what the training has almost no effect, or training do not become a hurdle in the way of production, right? Now coming down to the demerits, right, or limitations or drawbacks of vestibule training, right? Artificial training atmosphere can create a problem to the trainees when they go to the actual place of work, right? Because there the conditions are artificial, and here at the actual workplace the conditions are natural, so it may create a limitation, it may create a hurdle in this regard to the candidates, right? The vestibule training is expensive because you need to create a duplicate work environment in a vestibule training school, right? Which involves a lot of money also, because you will be creating the working conditions which are almost similar to the actual working conditions. So you need to spend a hell lot of money. These are certain drawbacks or demerits of vestibule training, right? Now, third is your off the job training, right? First was the on the job, second was the vestibule, third is the off the job training, right? Now, off the job training, if you talk about it, means you are being trained away from your job. You are not trained on the job, but you are trained away from your job. Of the job training normally theoretical in nature and is imparted in through classroom teaching in classroom type atmosphere. This kind of training is aimed at making the trainees to gain knowledge rather than acquiring skills. Therefore, classroom training is an important part of the job training, and classroom training is being used when concepts, theories, problem solving skills, and new attitudes are to be taught to the trainees, right? Now, the major of the job training are: number one, classroom training, right? Lecture method. There are certain aspects of all jobs that can be learned in classrooms through, through the teaching of theory, right? It provides orientation about the organizations, and safety training is also provided to the employees in the classroom training, right? The standard instruction methods suitable for operative employees are being taught to the employees by the instructor in a lecture or in a classroom training. The trainers or the instructors is having the considerable depth of the subject, and he impart theoretical knowledge of different aspects of job to the candidates in these classroom training lectures. He tries to communicate his thoughts to the trainees in such a manner that he may be able to he may be able to generate the interest of the employees particularly in his lecture, and will be able to make them understand and create a deeper understanding of work among them, right? The trainees here generally takes the trainees are taking the notes like you people are doing in your classroom teaching, right? Now, the lecture method can easily be used for training large group of people or of trainees, right? Therefore, the cost for trainee this kind of training is low because large number of people can be taught at a single point of time, right? But there are certain limitations uh, of this method of training, that is the classroom training. The first limitation is that learner may be passive, they not be active learner, they may be passive learner, right? It violates the principles of learning by doing and constitutes one way communication, because only the instructor is communicating, and he might or might not be taking feedback from the trainees, because a large number of trainees are there in classroom teaching. So it is very difficult to have one-to-one contact with each and every trainee in that classroom. So communication remains most of the time one-way communication, right? But students are permitted to ask questions in between to the instructor. So those students or those trainees who are active listeners, they are usually putting up questions to the trainer or the instructor, and the instructor is answering to all of their queries, right? It provides feedback from the students to the instructor that whether they are grasping or understanding the concept in the same way as it is intended by the instructor or trainer or not, right? Here, lectures can easily be combined. They may be recorded, or the candidate may take notes of the lecture, whatever method is possible or suitable. Therefore, teachers may conduct a class by a combined lecture or discussion method. Right. That is what the instructor is doing in the this kind of training program. Right. Now, formal reading assignments and other kinds of assignments like demonstrations, films, cases, and other audio visual techniques may be used in order to make the classroom lecture more interesting for the trainees. Now, second method is conference. Conference is another form of group meeting which is conducted so that the members may gain, develop, and understanding of the training content, right, or the topic for the conference. And right, conference is a kind of group meeting which is being arranged in order to create deeper understanding of the concepts or the topic of the conference to all the trainees, right. Conference is an effective method of training, and it is used very frequently in different organizations, right. So in this form of training, there are two form of members: conference member and conference leader, right. As a member, a person can learn another by comparing his opinion with the opinion of the other. He can compare his opinion with the opinions of the other, and that is how he's learning, right. He learned to respect the viewpoints of others and also realize that there is more than one workable approach to every problem, right. He is able to understand that whatever I am thinking is right, but whatever somebody else is suggesting is also right. So there are multiple ways of doing a thing or dealing with the problem, right. Now, the basic meaning of conference is consultation, but in practice, conference is used for sharing the information with the audience of large number of people. Conferences are conducted at a big place where participants are there, and they are permitted to exchange their views and raise questions to the experts who are giving different presentations in the conference. The proceedings of the conferences are conducted by the chairman, who is responsible to sum up the proceeding of the conference and also publish them if it is so decided and desired, right. Nowadays, video conferencing is also gaining popularity and becomes very popular, and conferences are also getting organized through a video conferencing platform like we are doing, right. Now, moving further, seminars. Seminar is also like a conference, but it is a, a small scale activity, right. Seminar is normally organized on a single theme like emerging issues in human resource development or information technology in 2020. These may be these are some examples of topic of the seminar, right. The themes are examined in detail by different experts in that field. They come with their papers, with their research articles, and present their research articles in the seminars, and discussions are initiated on those research material, right. The experts here are presenting on their topics, and they are also dealing with the queries which are being raised by the audience and other people who are there as participants in the seminar, right. In practice, conference and seminars are usually changed interchangeably, right, and people do not find any difference between the two, but technically they are different from each other, right. Now, fourth is role playing. Role playing is another important technique for human relation and leadership training. In role playing, in role playing, the main objective is to increase the trainee skills in dealing with others, right? In this method, two trainees or two more than two trainees are assigned different role to play, or they may be given a case, and a group of trainees may be given a case and ask them to take role of different characters in the case and play the case in front of all the trainees who are present there, right? Right. So this method helps the training in learning how to behave in a conflicting situations, right? Trainees also learn to appreciate the viewpoints of each other, which is very much necessary, right? So this is about the methods of training, right? And tomorrow we will be starting with unit third of your human resource.